We are now in the age of the kamikaze investor and kamikaze politics. And I want to discuss this and its implications in the context of a big story that has burst on the scene, has everyone talking about it. And it's a story about the rebel investors mobilized on Reddit who are trying to overthrow some of the most powerful and financially well-endowed hedge funds on Wall Street. So it's the little guys and a lot of little guys against a few big guys. There's a populist thrust here, which helps us to understand not just Wall Street, the implications for Wall Street, but also the implications for American politics. Now, many of you are following the story, but some of you aren't. So I'm going to sort of try to unfurl it from the beginning. In Wall Street, there is the idea, and this has become established over decades, that Wall Street is the smart money, but the ordinary investor is the dumb money. The smart money knows what it's doing. The dumb guy just jumps in and most of the time kind of loses his or her shirt. So the Wall Street game is for the insiders to beat the outsiders. And for a long time, they were doing it, and they've been doing it until now. Now, there are a bunch of companies. GameStop is one of them. It's a company that sells games, and it's in malls. And it's not been doing very well. It's one of those companies particularly hard hit by COVID. Here's another company in the same boat, AMC, the theater chain. I've had movies in AMC, as in Regal and Cinemark. AMC is doing very badly, and it's partly because no one's going to the movies right now. And so these stocks have been losing value. And now what Wall Street does, the big guys, the insiders, is when a stock is plummeting, they short it. And short it basically means they bet it's going to go down more. And they're hoping to make money on this correct prediction, on this downward trajectory. So you can make money if you predict correctly that stocks are going up, but you can also make money if you correctly predict that they're going down. That's the meaning of shorting a stock. Now, a bunch of guys on social media, starting on Reddit and using primarily an app called Robinhood, decided, we hate these rich guys. We're going to teach them a lesson. We're going to bust them. And the way we're going to bust them is we're going to take these stocks in a downward trajectory, like AMC and like GameStop, and we're going to start buying them. Call us irrational if you will, but we're going to drive the price up. And here's the key point. If somebody on Wall Street is betting, if some big hedge funds are betting, and they're betting billions of dollars, that a stock is going to go down, and the stock in fact goes up, they lose a lot of money. In fact, in theory, they can lose an infinite amount of money. I don't need to go into the details of how that occurs, but the simple truth of it is if they make an erroneous bet on a plummeting stock, they stand to be really drained. They will lose their shirts. And so what's happening is that a battle sort of erupted in which the Reddit guys and the Robinhood guys were buying up these, quote, useless stocks. And then Wall Street goes, we're going to teach these punks a lesson. We're going to short even more. And these guys are going to ultimately lose all their money because these stocks aren't intrinsically worth what they're bidding up the stock to be. But the Reddit guys decided, okay, you want to fight? Let's fight. And they began to put out the word on social media, and more people jumped in. It became kind of a gathering snowball. And there's more of them than there are of the Wall Street guys, even though the Wall Street guys have more money. And so in this remarkable battle of a kind really not seen, not only in the history of social media, but in the history of Wall Street, the Reddit guys began to win. And the rich guys began to panic because they were losing billions. In fact, the major hedge funds began to call other hedge funds to get loans, to get infusions of funds to cover their gargantuan losses. Places like Melvin Capital, one of the most established firms on Wall Street, facing the prospect of being ruined by this. And so what do the big guys do? They do what they kind of do in these situations. They rush for government protection. They go to the SEC. Help us block these rebel investors. They go to Robinhood, the site. Now think of it. Robinhood was set up for the little guy to trade, for the little investor. And Robinhood stops trading, stops allowing people to buy GameStop, stops them being able to buy AMC and other similar stocks. Outrageous. Basically, what happens is Robinhood has become the sheriff of Nottingham. Robinhood is now betting with the system against the little guy. Now, let's look for a moment at the reasoning of the system. The reasoning of the system is these little guys are irrational. We need to protect them for their own good. They surely know that these stocks aren't worth what they're willing to pay for them. And so we've got to stop this irrational conduct right now to protect the integrity of the system. This is crony capitalism at its finest, or I should say at its ugliest. A collusion between big business, big money, and big government. And in this case also, you may say, these tech sites like Robinhood against the little guy. And the basic idea here is that the little guy is not acting with economically rational motives. And perhaps this is true. But let me begin to give a reply, if I may, on behalf of the little guy. What if the little guy is not motivated by economics at all? What if the little guy believes that he has been screwed over by big politics and big money and big Wall Street? People often feel that in real life. Think of it. Let's say you have a sibling and your parents put that sibling in charge of, made them the executor of the family estate. And the sibling took 90% of the family inheritance and gave you 10%. Let's say, moreover, that the sibling had every right to do that. They were in charge of the process, and so what they did was legal. But nevertheless, you are furious. Now, a kind of true libertarian would say to you, oh, you should not be upset about this because think about it. You still got 10%. You're better off than you were before from a purely economically rational point of view. If you are homo economicus, you should say, wow, it's just a little bit of a windfall for me. True, my brother got 10 times more or 9 times more, but why should I be upset about that? Well, the fact of the matter is we are not homo economicus. We are driven by other motives. In this case, it would be a deep sense of injustice, a sense of being screwed over. And it would not be entirely irrational for the guy who has been treated that way to go, I'm going to devote the rest of my life to ruining this other guy who screwed me. I don't care if I lose my 10%. I'm going to try to prevent him from getting his 90%. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on here. The little guy is striking back, and the little guy may have $5,000 or $10,000, and they're willing to lose it, but they're willing to take Melvin Capital with them. They're willing to take all these smarmy, self-satisfied, smart money guys, and in their own words, put them out on the street, teach them a lesson. Now, I see something very similar going on in politics. Look at all the people who accosted Romney, started screaming at him on the airplane. Look at all the people who accosted Lindsey Graham. Look at even all the people who came to the Capitol. I'm not just talking about the people who went in the Capitol, but who came to D.C. These are people who feel powerless. They feel like no one's listening to them. They're extremely angry. And so kamikaze investment has its political equivalent in kamikaze politics. And kamikaze politics is, I don't care if what you're telling me to do is, quote, irrational. It is rational from my point of view, because my point of view is that you deserve to be screwed over. You deserve to be taught a lesson. And this has now become a potent force in American politics. It's not just on the right, by the way. The Reddit guys aren't right-wingers. They're little guys on the left, some of them. And some of them on the right, and some of them who don't even think of themselves as political. In some ways, I think we'd have to admit that even some of the Antifa guys who are out there lashing out at the system, they too are motivated by this somewhat nihilistic. But by nihilistic here, we don't mean that they believe in nothing. It's that they just don't believe in the system. They don't believe that our institutions are responsive to them. And I think they're right.